Hey there, everybody. This is your host, Kate Gaffney. Obviously, I'm always the same voice. You know who you're listening to. I'm jumping on to let you know that this is another two-parter, as evidenced by the fact that this says part 1, and then next week's will say part 2, with the utterly delightful, hilarious, thoughtful, intelligent, kind, giving, and wonderful Amie Enriquez. She was delightful to speak to, and I could have spoken to her for a long time. She is just my favorite kind of guest. So honest, just so honest. In her honesty journey on this podcast, she gets into some stuff with ED and some specifics, but no tips and tricks. So if you yourself are in recovery from ED, or if you have family and friends that are in the midst of it and it's just hard to hear, don't worry. In these episodes, whilst we do get into specifics, you will never hear numbers, as is part of recovery planning, and you will also never, ever, ever hear exactly how this was executed. So Amie does talk about recovery. She does go into a treatment center, and we do talk about the show that she wrote called Lightweight, where it discusses that. And we get into some specifics about just periods of time in her life and people's interventions during those times. But again, you are not going to hear tips and tricks, and you are not going to hear specific numbers. So if those are pain points for you, you don't have to worry. But if this general conversation is a pain point for you, I say midway through part 1 that this discussion is only going to live on part 1 of the episode, but it does come up again in part 2. So just putting this up top so that you know that if you have some pain points around this, or you're struggling with it currently or did struggle with it, as I said, we do not get into numbers and we do not get into tips and tricks. So if that is a way that you are affected, you don't have to worry about that with this. I'm just, it's still a comedy podcast. We still have a good time. We laugh about a lot of stuff. I learn a ton. I have so many questions, including a job that she had at three different supremely famous places, and had wild stories from all 3 of those places. So love to have you listen. Totally understand if this week and next week are going to be a skip for you. But just so you know, it is lovely. It is delightful. She is lovely. She is delightful. This is part 1. Let's get on with the show. Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions, or the lucky few who got out, and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this, as I used to work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles. And at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, award-winning playwright, actress, and creator of Lightweight, Amie Enriquez. Amie was born and raised in New Rochelle, New York, and came to Los Angeles by way of Hawaii. She is a graduate of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, as well as the Second City and Groundlings training programs in Los Angeles. Damn. Amie developed the stage play Lightweight as a way to share her real-life journey through eating disorder recovery, and it immediately played to sold-out houses and rave reviews. Lightweight had a full run at the famed Underbelly venue of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August of 2022, which is an insane accomplishment we're going to talk about. And additional festival runs include New York City's Frigid Fringe and United Solo. Lightweight had a 5-week run off-Broadway, y'all. Off-Broadway in New York at the Soho Playhouse in 2023. That is insane. I better know Amie from seeing Lightweight in Los Angeles right before she took it to Fringe and being floored, and also knowing her delightful husband and former guest of the podcast, Ithamar Enriquez. So, Amie, what did you love most about developing your own show? How much do you love acting? Do you like being in LA? Tell us all of the things.
The thing I loved the most about developing my own show was that I was developing my own show. I only had to answer to me.
That part.
And I loved it so much. And my director, Lauren Weedman, major shout out to Lauren, is so down for anything. And she is more out there and weird than I am. So it was such a fun collaboration with Lauren to be like, to come to her and be like, I want to do this show about the time I was in a treatment center. It was an addiction treatment center to recover from anorexia, but I was like the only person in there with an eating disorder, and I was in there for a year, and it's a 28-day program, but it's funny. I wanted to be a comedy. She's like, absolutely, yes.
That's amazing.
And I wasn't writing it. I didn't have any hopes or dreams for it. I was just like, I feel like I have this story and I need to get it out. And I really didn't have a plan for it. I wasn't like, and then it's going to be a pilot, and then it's going to be the next, Girl Interrupted meets Orange is the New Black, which it kind of is, in case anyone's shopping for this. Yeah. But I just wanted to do it. And then it just became, what it is today.
Okay, so we're going to get more into the nuances and lightweight. I want to go to a bit more of your origin story. So you're from New York. What brought you out to Los Angeles? Was it acting?
Yeah, although I didn't go straight from New York. I'm born and raised in New Rochelle, which is, if you are from the city, you're like, New Rochelle's upstate, and it's not upstate. It's like 20 minutes on the Metro North. It's right just north of the Bronx, but fine.
That's New York City. I'm sorry. That's New York City.
No one will agree with that. Everyone's like, no. So New Rochelle, it's pretty popular from the Dick Van Dyke Show. That's where they lived on the show, and it is home to, I don't know, Jay Leno, maybe, I think.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to think of what makes it cool. I'm from there.
That's enough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
New Rochelle's a cool place. And when I was 10, my family moved to Florida. And as a 10-year-old, I didn't have a say in that. And we lived there. And then as soon as I turned 18, I went back to New York. And I went to school in the city. And I stayed in the city as long as I could. And this might be skipping around a little bit. I had to go back to Florida for treatment when I got very sick. And after that, I bounced around a little bit, and then I landed in Hawaii, lived on Maui for 2 years, and then I came to LA. And it was the industry that brought me here.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to be sensitive to our listeners, we're going to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of ED stuff. So if that is something that you don't want to listen to, which is totally understandable, stop listening for just a little bit, and then I'll verbally indicate when you can come back in. Okay, so you when you were living in New York, were you a dancer, and was that something that would have triggered like disordered eating things, or was it like what, or was it your whole life that you struggled with this? And I don't want to step on the toes of the show, so if any of this is stepping on lightweight, feel free to be come just see the show.
Well, definitely come to see the show, but also I intentionally with the show don't go into like everyone wants to know like how did that happen? But it's like there's no linear answer. It's not like, oh, it was this one event. It was the day my parents divorced. That was when it's behavioral, and it's a mental disease. So it really, I think going, because I had to do so much therapy about this.
She threw her head back.
Lots of people are really rich because of my brain. It definitely like started to manifest at a very, very young age, and there was no inciting incident. But I just, in high school, it became like I started to binge eat, and so I had binge eating disorder. When I went to college, I started to binge and then purge because I had the liberty for no one to know because I didn't live at home anymore. And then this is also trigger warning, but only your older audiences were probably around for this. But I was in New York City on 9/11, and on that day, and I do go into this in lightweight on the show, but that's when it was like restriction, when it was all about control and restriction. And that was the one that stuck around for a real long time.
Yeah, it turns out.
Yeah.
That's the tricky one.
That was it's just, it's such a tricky, it's so unfair. Any kind of addiction, it's just so unfair. But this is a drug. Food is your drug of choice. Like, you can't just like quit it cold turkey like alcohol or...
That's the thing that is insane to me. For people who can recover from like the like morbid obesity, when we're really getting into the tricky territory with that, you can't have abstinence from the drug. I mean, that's the part nobody talks about. Like, I don't know how you recover when it's like, well, you can have a little bit of the drug, just not a whole lot of the drug.
Totally. And I totally say that in lightweight too. It's like, how are you supposed to, like, abstinence is key, and that is not easy for everyone who is lives with addiction and has stayed free of their drug of choice, or it's not really your choice, for a certain amount of days or years. It's so hard, but it's like when it's food, and you struggle with binge eating or restriction or purging. I mean, purging is you can just not purge, but it's like the food though. It's like, okay, you're an alcoholic, but you have to have one
drink
beer a day.
Just one.
And
singular.
no more.
Not a drop
but
more.
no less.
But no less. You have to have that one.
One beer a day.
Girl.
And it's like, yeah, it's tough. It's a lifetime of work, but I'm in a very good place. I have been for a long time. Yeah.
I love that. And so so you're in New York, the 9/11 happens, and then you were like, cool, I got this. I'm just going to control the food stuff because the world is out of control. And so when did someone intervene and force you to go to treatment? I've seen the show and I remember the show, but I'm just asking for our audience.
Yeah.
Did someone say like, hey, it's time for you to go, or we're gonna, I don't know, fire you from a job or kick you out of an apartment, or what was the...
Yeah. It was, there was a lot of early intervention that didn't work. 9/11 obviously was September. That's the 9th month of the year, if anyone was wondering.
Thank you, Amie.
You're welcome. If you take anything from this today, remember that the 9th month of the year is September, people.
We got it.
And that Christmas, it was a few months later. And so I went home for the holidays, and my family, like in New York, I have a lot of family in New York, and I would wear like 2 pairs of jeans, like who... Even saying that out loud, I'm like, that's how uncomfortable. Is that like to be like,
but you think you're so clever.
Please?
Yeah, you're like, I got this. Yeah. No one notices.
Like,
I'm doing so
well.
I'm
wearing a winter coat in July. No one's gonna see these bones.
No one can see my face. I'm fine. Oh God.
I have little apple cheeks. No one's gonna suspect a thing.
I'm cold constantly. Don't worry about it.
My hair is falling out in clumps. It's hormones.
I'm going through menopause. I'm 18. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions.
Literally haven't menstruated in a year. Okay. Oh my God. I'm like growing hair on my face. It's not pretty. So I went home for the holidays at Christmas, and, it was evident because my mom lives in Florida, and, she's like, okay, I've heard from your aunts and they're not wrong. Something's wrong with you. And so once I went back to New York because I was still in school, and I saw a nutritionist and a therapist who specialized in eating disorders. And I was just like not there for it. I didn't see a problem at all. And I was, it feels like you finally have control in your life. And then someone's trying to take that away.
That part. Mm-hmm. That's why it's so hard to stop.
Yes. Because it's at that time, it's working for you. I hadn't been sick long enough to experience the health repercussions that were coming my way, that I was warned about, but didn't believe they were coming because I had my energy. I was still...
Oh, you're euphoric a lot of the time.
Yes.
I mean, there is a drug side effect to restriction.
There is. And I don't recommend it at all. There are better ways to get this dopamine hit, but also purging, like releases those chemicals.
I can't tell you.
Where you feel so good until you don't.
Until you don't.
You have to do it all over again.
But there's a 5-minute window where you feel the best you've ever felt in your fucking life.
Yes. I know. Yeah. I know. So I went through the motions of trying to... of doing what my family wanted me to do.
No, that's
so I could
relatable.
stay in New York. And, but I didn't do any of the stuff, the work. I wasn't doing the work. I was going through the motions. And I stayed in New York I finished school. It was a 2-year, what do you call it?
Conservatory.
Thank you.
Conservatory.
Yeah. And I actually stayed in New York for a while. And then it got to a point where my family intervened.
Okay, I want to come back to that really quick. But so the hard part, I think, for people to understand is like, so it's not like hunger goes away. And it's not like that feeling of, wow, I feel like really sick because I should probably eat something, or you get lightheaded. All of the same hunger things that happen to people without ED happen to people with it. But you're also like, you feel like, I'm king though, because I can do all these things and y'all can't. Y'all had to give in. It's this weirdly competitive with the world thing that happens.
Yes.
So did that fuel you to be better in acting school? Because I could see how that, because our acting school is already enormously competitive. So if you have this other thing, did you feel like, I don't know, like superior, or like you were doing it better?
yet I felt superior to myself.
Ooh, come on with the truth. Come on with the truth. That part.
I felt my first year in college, I was like, I'm such a shitty actor. I'm not good. Because my college was very method-y. Like, Stanislavski and whoever, Meisner, hate the methods.
Really?
Yeah, I really, but it worked because I was never able to cry on cue or like cry in a scene or really cry in real life.
Why? Why on earth would that be true?
How much time do we have? Let me tell you about my upbringing. But I had to learn how to like really emote and be in the moment and like not act, just be. But I don't know, it really broke me down. And I don't think any 18-year-old should be a method actor. I think that could really fuck with your head.
Look, I don't disagree.
Like, to walk around New York City as a teenager,
tiny little human. You're a baby.
Still, you were still a baby, being like, I'm a 45-year-old brothel owner from the 1930s. Just I don't know. It's just like being method.
It's insane in New York City on the streets. It's insane. Because for people who don't know, we've talked about method on the show before, but essentially, like what Amy's saying is like you embody that character all the time. You never take a break. So if that is the character that you're currently playing on stage or in a film or whatever, when you're method, it's the Jim Carrey, the movie where he played, I can't think of the name of it, but any method actor, you know what I'm talking about?
When Jim Carrey played,
I know,
some people are mad at us right now.
Sorry, listeners.
Screaming at it.
They're like, it was this movie.
Andy Kaufman?
There it is. You got that. Look at that. All we had to do was make fun of ourselves. That says something. But yeah, where he would say like, crew, everybody has to call me Andy all the time. And he would get really upset when they wouldn't. That stuff, I guess I understand. But the having to do it in the streets of New York City is like a child.
Like,
what?
Honestly.
How did you, so that doesn't work for you, but you'd still be required to do that? Or would you say like, okay, I'd rather try something else? Like, how did it work?
I mean, they didn't require it, but this was the method they were teaching us of like, you are this character 24 until this role is done, until like the like the scene work is over. You did your scene a week later, but or the play that we were doing at school. And so what I did, because I'm like, well, I have to go to work still, like I still have to like do things. So I'd compartmentalize. I would keep a journal as the character. So I would like just journal all the time in character. But like one of my characters was pregnant. And it's just like
put a pillow in your.
I had a book. I took my Aunt Kathy's book of what to expect when you're expecting, and I read it everywhere. It was just all about what to expect when you're pregnant, and I would read it, and I would literally weep and be like, "Oh, my baby's gonna like." Oh my God, it's embarrassing.
But other actors are like, oh, you're really committed. Like, good for you. We normalize it, don't we?
We normalize it. And honestly, I gave great fucking performances.
I bet you did.
But I had no confidence that it was good, and so when, post 9/11, I'm restricting now, like, binging and purging is very much a feeling of a loss of control. It's like, I can't stop eating. I can't. And then like, it has to come out immediately. And I never felt great about it, but I couldn't stop. And so then I found this new like magic trick, and I felt like, oh, fuck yeah, I am superior to everybody. And I felt like pre 9/11 Amie, I was like, you weak little sack of shit. You kept binging and purging, and now look at us. Like, look at us now.
On top of the world.
Yeah. And that, like you mentioned, like, yes, I still feel hunger. I feel lightheaded, but I can push through.
I can overcome.
I can do this.
Oh, girl.
And it works until it doesn't. It's just because I don't want to encourage it at all. I've been fully recovered for 11 years, and
hell yeah, girl.
Thank you.
That's huge. It's a long time.
Much. Not a single relapse of restriction.
Holy shit.
Or binging or purging. Yeah.
God damn, Amie, good for you. That's an actual miracle.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm like, we'll go through a lot of work history. I'm 42. People might be like, oh my God, she must be 80 because I have so much. I've lived so much life.
Sure.
But yeah, that's why I wrote lightweight, because I'm like, you can't do it if you're still recovering, really.
No.
If you're still like actively living with your addiction, I don't think it's a healthy thing to put it out there. So that's when I was like, okay, now I can tell my story because it's done. Like,
That's what they say, that they think Matthew Perry's book, I mean, reflecting back, they're like, oh, that's why it didn't really get super dark and super honest. There were dark parts of the book, but they thought the people in recovery have suggested, and it's not fair to speculate, but it's since come out that he was using in the end. And people in recovery are like, yeah, he was in hell and wrote this book whilst he was still in hell. Like there's gaps in the book. Because anyway,
yeah,
you're speaking
you
the
really
truth.
can't. It's like that putting on the oxygen mask before you help others. You really, like, if your intention is to help and spread awareness, I really think you have to be in a very healthy place.
1000%.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to stay on this a little bit longer, audience, stick with us, because I think this just is healing people, is my opinion. So you feel on top of the world. You're now in your second year of conservatory. Is that the year you go back for Christmas? Or you had already gone? Okay, so that's the year you go back.
Yes, I go back.
Where your mom's like, yo, something's up. And you're like, see ya.
I was like, nothing's up, bitch.
Back to New York for me to be superior.
Sure did. I went right back to New York and kept doing my thing. That's when I was going to a therapist. And
now, this is the thing that I think is also really tough about New York and is tough about entertainment. Did anybody at the school flag it as like, because in dancing, this happens all the time. It's like, you're going to get nudges of like, hey, you look great. So were people at school being like, hey, Amie?
You know what's really interesting? The Italian side of my family, which is my dad's side, who I'm not close with him at all. And my parents are divorced, so he'll never hear this. And I don't care. I ruined my dad in my show too. So in lightweight, so I have
You were honest. You didn't ruin him, but you were honest as fuck.
That side of the family, they were the ones to be like, you look really good. You're looking good. My own, I know, and my own peers and the students at the school, they flagged it as, I know what's going on because I've dealt with that. I've been there, or you're not looking healthy at all. Like
that makes me want to cry.
I know. The head of the school called me into her office and had to sit down with me and was like, we can see that something's happening. And
God bless. See, I was talking shit about that school. That's so lovely.
They were even the guy who worked security, Clem.
Come on with Clem.
He like pulled me to the side. He's like, I've been working security at the school for decades, and I've seen it so many times. He's like, and I can see it with you now.
I'm gonna actually cry.
And yeah. He was like, don't go down that road. And and it's like at the time you're just like, okay, thank you, because you don't want to hear it.
But especially when you're not ready, that feels like a notch on your belt, because you're like, I'm not only am I superior to everyone, but I'm resisting even you.
Yes.
Like it's this weird. Oh, you're just warped thinking.
That big. People are worried about me.
Look at me go.
Look at that.
I must be succeeding.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
It's so warped.
Yes.
Yeah. Been there.
It's so warped. It's just so sad. It's really
hard.
sad. But I hope that gives people an understanding of like why it's so hard to like, you can't
Treat
just
it.
like eat a sandwich and be like, I'm better.
I fixed it.
It is like, it's so addictive. It's like, okay. And it, and it's not manipulative. It's not like, I want everyone to worry about me.
No.
But suddenly they are. And you're like, okay. It feels good to be loved.
Feels a little nice.
You feel like it's love, you know? Yeah.
Oh, girl.
So no, actually the school was incredibly supportive in me getting
better.
help.
I love
seeking
that.
treatment.
I love that a lot.
Yeah, really lovely.
I'm shocked, actually. So there goes my judgment right out the window. That's amazing. Okay, so you're going through all of this. You go to treatment, and to truly not step on the toes of the show, we're not gonna talk about treatment at all. But you go there for a year.
Yes.
Then after that year, you were like back to New York, or were you?
No. That was, so when I went to Florida for treatment. That was an intervention. I had graduated school. I was still working in New York and, trying to get an agent and auditioning and doing the thing that you do after you graduate an acting conservatory. And, but I was getting more and more sick to the point where I moved in with my aunt, who's not really my aunt, but she's my mom's best friend. And my mom told me, she was like, hey, I'm going to send your younger sister up for a visit for her spring break. And I was like, great. She's like, and you're going to come home with her. And I was like, why? She's like, I already booked you the ticket and it's on the auto train. It's where because I had
the auto train?
Exactly. I'm gonna tell you what the auto train. It is the Amtrak auto train where you put your car onto the train.
Oh my God.
They have like train cars just for cars, and you ride as a passenger like in like the regular seating area, and it goes from like Virginia to Florida maybe at the time. And I had my car up there. I don't know why I had a car in New York. No one needs a car in New York. But I had my little Saturn, like my 98 Saturn sedan. And she's like, and I booked you and Jessie, my younger sister Jessie, a ticket on the auto train. You're packing up all your stuff. You're coming home. And I was so mad, but I also didn't fight it. Because I think I knew. I was like, nothing. I even had an agent call me out on it. They were like,
for an agent to say something is wild.
Yeah. I had done like a headshot mail. This is before digital. So I did the headshot mailing to get representation. And I got a lot of interviews with agents in New York. And one of them was like, it was lovely to meet you and talk to you, but it's clear to me that you may be going through something and that
I actually
we can't represent you.
What a gift.
Yeah, I know.
Like, and even a lovely way of saying it. Not like it's clear you have an eating disorder. It's like it's clear you're going through something.
Yeah.
It's such delicate.
Yeah. I know.
That's
we
lovely.
think my experience with the industry has been nothing but kind with the eating. Like everyone I've encountered, they're like, no, you can't. We can't send you on you're not ever going to survive a day on the set if you're starving yourself, right? Like it's a lot of energy. And trust me, I'm sure many folks in this business do survive many days on sets starving themselves and or abusing drugs. But yeah, so I really think I was like, yeah, I guess let's just do this, you know? So my younger sister and I jumped on that Amtrak auto train, and I got to my mom's place, and she said, you know, I found a therapist who specializes in eating disorders for you to talk to. And I went to her, and again, bless her heart, she was like, I can't help you. She's like, you are too sick.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She's like, you need like inpatient treatment. And she gave me a brochure to give to my mom. And then she knew well enough that I was not going to give that brochure to my mother.
Absolutely not.
So she also went outside when my mom was picking me up and gave her a brochure. Because at that point, no one was letting me drive anywhere by myself. They're like, girl, we don't trust you anymore. Because anorexia specifically is so sneaky.
It's real sneaky.
You get so used to your lies that you begin to believe them. And so she gave my mom the brochure too and said, look, I can't help her. She's beyond just going to therapy once a week. And my mom called that place up, and I took a tour and did an intake thing, and that's how I got to treatment. And after treatment, because I'll skip, it's a 28-day program. I stayed for a year. That's the show.
And it's awesome. And it's actually funny. It's touching, but it's also very funny.
It's real fun. Yeah. It's a good time, guys.
It is a good time.
It's a real good time. And then after, I'm saying and too much.
No, you're not.
After I got out of treatment, I was not allowed to work. I was on disability because the treatment center, once they discharged me, was like, you can't work around food. You can't work around alcohol, because officially, like, you're an addict, you know? I'm like, I've never abused alcohol. I definitely have. And, you know, like, I'm not a drug addict. And they're like, no, this is an addiction. This is a mental disease. You're addicted. And so it was like, don't work around food. Don't work around booze. Don't work in a gym. Don't work around anything.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
It really narrowed it down.
Yeah, especially if you don't have work history, really.
My only work history was in the food and beverage, hospitality. And I was like, well, where the hell am I going to work?
Truly.
So I didn't work for a year, but instead I kind of helped my grandma. She was my grandfather. Her. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to burp.
That's good, but do it on the mic. I'm not editing that out.
That was a real quiet. That was a polite.
It was a baby burp.
It was a baby ladylike burp. My grandma, she was going through a lot of health stuff, but she was a lady who liked to keep up with appearances. So she needed someone to drive her to get her nails done every week and her hair done twice a week.
I kind of love that.
And it was the best. I loved it. So I was on disability I drove my grandma around and did her errands for her.
Did that feel esteemable? I mean, that must have felt at least sort of good, as if you were contributing, or did it feel like charity?
No, I felt good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. She didn't pay me. No one paid me to work for her.
Oh, I thought you were getting paid.
No, you're right. Although, well, I will say this. She's dead. But grandmama, she did pay for my treatment. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So actually, I was, in a way,
giving it
repaying
back.
her. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Damn you, Amy.
Sorry, do you need tissues?
No, I'm okay.
I can get tissues.
No, let's not stop. I don't want to lose momentum. I'll just sob into my shirt. Okay, so you were doing that with your grandmother, and then was there a moment? So, because trajectory of getting to Los Angeles. So how long do you help your grandma?
Oh, less than a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like under a year that my job really was to make sure I didn't relapse. And
were you successful?
No.
Yeah, I was like, wow, holy fuck, really?
And here we are today. I did it perfectly.
Perfectly. That's how recovery works.
Perfect anorexic and the perfect person to recover out.
You get an A in that too.
Yes. Absolutely not. I still feel like I was still cheating the system when I was out.
You're more clever. You're more clever than the system.
Exactly.
Of course, it feels amazing.
I really, and like when I got into treatment, I lost more weight to prove to them, like, you can't touch me, you can't control me.
That is so relatable.
And once again, I'd never had to be tube fed or.
You didn't?
No, never.
Oh, you are lucky.
I've heard the horror stories of what it is and what it is like, and I am.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work
because it speeds you past all the pain.
No,
it's not good.
You have to do.
You have to do the work. You
have to do the work as long as it takes. Until you get to the point. Like, well, I did have to be hospitalized just because my vitals, were. They just need to put fluid in me, and just your whole body shuts down.
Sure.
It's really terrifying. And also very interesting what the body does to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like right away, it's like we're no longer menstruating.
That's first thing to go.
That's the first thing to go.
Yep.
You're growing more body hair, gonna keep you warm.
Yep.
I'm like, wow, and your organs are weak. Your blood pressure is really low because it's trying to conserve energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just so fascinating, and it gave me an appreciation for what the body does and can do and how it can heal. But also, it wasn't enough to let me respect my body. It was
frustrating. You're fighting
it. I'll still destroy it. Yeah. I'm not that sick. I was never sick enough. I'm like, even in the hospital, I was like, still not sick enough. I know someone who got a feeding tube, and I've never had to have a feeding tube, so I'm not that sick.
Wow, what an interesting metric to go against.
Right.
I mean, that's the thinking of the disordered eating, but that's a metric I hadn't thought of. Yeah, it's like, well, I'm not that bad.
Right. Like, look at how much worse that person is than me.
And I can keep going because I can go to that point. Watch me get there.
Let's see how far we can get. Let me be the new
line.
Karen Carpenter.
Ooh,
without the talent.
Girl.
She was like well, she's the most famous
anorexic.
She succeeded.
I think she succeeded. What an interesting point.
The perfect anorexic because she
and
died.
It took her out.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I was so
Amy.
Yeah.
That is honest as fuck. Yeah. And that's true. I mean, and what a victory for when you're compare and despair.
You're just wow, she fucking did it. She went all the way.
She really went for it.
Yeah. And at the time I was like, that's admirable. That is willpower, man.
That's willpower. That's
willpower.
what you think it is. That's so true.
She really did it. And
she never gave up.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. Yeah.
And now I do incorporate a little bit of her into my show, and I'm just like, oh my God, I feel so sad about that. Like, it's terrible. It's,
But isn't it interesting that even though the music group, she's famous for that, but it's interesting how even people in their 20s who are walking through that, her name is still mentioned. And so it's worthy of saying that it wasn't didn't die in vain, I guess, would be what makes me think. It's but you're still the touchstone for you can have all the money, you can have all the trappings,
yes,
and you can still be sick,
yes,
and it's
not survive it.
The stakes really are actually that high.
Because we do unfortunately see a lot of very famous people who die of drug overdose or accidental overdose intentionally taking ending
own
their
lives.
lives, you know, cirrhosis of the liver from alcohol abuse. But we really don't see like, oh, they died of anorexia. That person died. There aren't any. So you really don't think it can happen. But it does.
It does. And there's so many comorbidities so that it can be overlooked.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part.
Typically, it's cardiac arrest.
Almost always. Yeah. Isn't that how Karen, I think that's Karen Carpenter.
I think that's what technical. Yeah. It will never say on a coroner's report like
anorexia nervosa.
Anorexia nervosa. Yeah. It's like, oh, no, it was
her heart stopped.
Your heart stops. Yeah. It is scary. As of the last time I checked, which was, I try to keep on top of statistics, but anorexia nervosa is the second most deadly addiction next to opioid abuse. Yeah. So that's pretty high up. So it's above alcohol. It's above, but we don't talk about it.
We don't.
We don't talk about it at all. And it's not to say other addictions aren't serious, but I think that it's a very, I don't know. It's just like uncomfortable for people to listen to.
Sure, it's uncomfortable to talk because it's very much a disease that exists in the shadows.
Yeah,
because we live in a society that praises the side effects.
Totally.
So when the side effects of your mental illness are praised and people try to intervene and tell you like, hey, you have to stop doing this thing, you're like, fuck you. Society doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm an example. Right. I'm what people want. And it's like, oh, geez. How do you combat that? And we're so strong-willed. Oh my gosh, we're headstrong as hell. And it's what, anyway, we could go on and on.
I know. I could be, but yeah, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter how many examples you have either. If you're going to do what you're going to do,
100%.
It is like, 100%. It's addictive and it's hard to stop. But yeah, no, I didn't like stay the course right after treatment.
Of course not. Of course not.
I wanted to.
Of course.
I still was terrified of losing control,
100%.
and so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't, want to be this out of control freak. And so I made sure that some of my like OCD, which I was diagnosed with OCD, so I won't throw around terms like loosely unless I had PTSD, OCD, and my diagnosis was anorexia binge purge type.
Oh, I've never heard that specific of a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
okay.
still used exercise as a way to like purge too. So, I kind of used that. So every day I was still just very strict on like, yes, I'm no longer active in my anorexia. However, I will only eat these foods, these clean, healthy foods. I will, exercise this much every day, and I would still weigh myself multiple times a day.
I was going to ask, now don't they ban scales though, usually like post-treatment, or do they?
I had a hidden one.
Of course you did. Because you're more clever than everyone. I get it.
I hid one. I hid one, and the thing beeped every time you stepped on it.
And you're like, you're narc.
I was like, ah. And I was living with my mom and my stepdad, and my younger sister was living there too because she was still in high school. And I kept it under my dresser, and it was like a thin little scale. And I would wait for everyone to fall asleep at night.
Bless
I
you.
knew my sister was sleeping in like the room next to me, and we had like an adjoining bathroom. And so I would like, and you don't want to step on a carpet because then it's uneven and it's not going to give you the real weight. And so I had to put on a hard surface, and then it would give me the weight, and it would be like, beep. And I'd be like, shut up, stupid narc, shut up. So it was a very but it was thrilling, it's like, oh, I'm being still so sneaky and so secretive.
Mm-hmm.
And so
and there's a high off of that too, which is a hard high to get rid of.
And I never got to know my weight in treatment. They blind weighed you, so you step on the scale
Backwards.
backwards. They put like a blindfold on you.
Oh, I've never seen blindfolds. Oh, that's so funny. Like, you really don't know.
Because they knew I was going to like turn my neck around and be like, what does it say back there, bitch? So the blindfold, step on it backwards. We already have so many trust issues.
Oh, yeah.
And we have just to have someone's hands on your body, guiding you backwards onto something with a blindfold on, as someone with so much trauma, it's like,
well, it's awful.
Oh my God.
Also trauma around the number, trauma around just weight in general. All the pieces of that are horrific.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And so I never got to know my weight, and I was like, show it to me. So I had to take matters into my own hands, and I don't even know how I got the scale.
I was going to ask.
Amazon didn't exist yet, not for the not for me at least.
Yeah. So you are doing that secretively. And I mean, was your mom told to do like room sweeps, or was it like give her autonomy?
No.
She's gonna, there's
full autonomy. And which is good.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, like,
it is actually
don't
good.
get into your child's business. You know, I think that
Because it makes us sneakier.
Yeah,
we just get more clever.
Find a way.
100%.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Find a way. Always. For some weird reason in Florida, there's a southern grocery chain called Publix with an X.
Well, we always call it Publix because we're being ridiculous.
Yes, I'm going to Publix.
Yeah.
They're so
Stupid.
clever, so funny. Like Publix guys. In their like lobby, so like you go in, you know, where the carts are. There was a huge scale that you could just step onto.
What?
Yes.
That's the most Florida shit of all time.
It was so weird. And so I would just go to the fucking grocery store and weigh myself.
You're like, I'm going to go get food. No, I'm not.
And you're doing it in front of all
those people.
All these people. And I didn't give a shit. I was
Because
like,
you felt good.
Watch it.
Yeah, look at this number.
Me.
You can never get to this number.
Look at this number, but don't look at me.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not here, but that number is.
Yeah. Oh my God. I would just jump on it real fast and be like, yeah, still got it. Still got it.
That is so relatable.
So I maintained a weight that to me was healthy enough to stay out of treatment.
Oh, because that's the new game.
Yeah, like I didn't want to go back, and you know, and I thought that like, okay, this is good. We can live with this. We can live with this number, and I'll never go do specific numbers.
I was just about to say, for the audience members who are gonna wonder why I'm not pushing, it is not important.
Nope.
And also, it's not healthy to discuss that. And so, for the people who did bravely listen to all of this, there will never be a number said. So stop listening for it. You're not gonna hear it. Keep
Never.
going.
You're not going to hear tricks or
Nope.
anything
No-
like
no
that.
tips.
You'll never
No.
hear what I did or didn't eat. None of it. And I keep it out of my show too because
you're recovered. Yeah.
When I used to seek out stories of recovery. Like I saw one in like a Cosmo magazine of like, you know, how I overcame my eating disorder.
To get tips.
And it gave me so many tips.
Yep.
The author was like, and every day, all I would eat is this, and this. And
you're
then
like,
I would do all of this as my exercise. And I'd be like,
new routine,
but I'm going to
one up you.
Yeah.
Because she gave up. Because
Yes.
she's talking about, oh,
I'm like,
girl.
well, I'm going to do that and then some. And so when I created Lightweight, I was like, we're not mentioning any numbers at all.
Anybody that has seen your show, myself included, who struggled with that or struggles with that, that was the first thing I noticed. Besides the fact that it was an amazing show, I was like, oh, she gets it.
Yeah.
She gets it.
No tricks.
Like,
you know?
Yeah.
I love to dupe a person. If you're coming for tricks, I'm like, great.
Cool.
Pay the $10 and sit through this 70 minutes show. You will never get that information because it's not important.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter.
So you're hiding the scale. You're like you're maintaining a weight to not get back into treatment. Now, is acting on the radar at all, or is in your head? Are you thinking I'm eventually going back to New York, or I'm eventually going to go back to LA, or go to LA? Because you said you got to LA via Hawaii. So like, what is the?
Oh gosh. Well, so while I was enjoying post-treatment life in Florida, after I don't know, I'd say 7 months or so of like, you know, just driving my grandma around and doing my best, I like what I call became a bit of a townie, and started hanging out with everyone who never left the town.
Sure.
And that included just like going to all the local bars
Sure.
and just drinking and partying. And I've actually never done any recreational drugs, but I just loved to drink. And so just kind of get a little like fucked up on the alcohol, and
Which took like half a beer. And you're like, this is awesome.
I don't know. I metabolized alcohol so fast. This is not anything to brag about or be proud of, but I was able to drink quite a bit.
Oh, interesting.
And still be okay. Like I don't know why.
That's interesting. It's probably just genetic.
It probably must be the Italian in me.
It's the Italian.
And Irish. So it's a real deadly combination.
My God, it's more the Irish.
I can drink anything.
We can't we? God bless. So you become a townie.
So I become a townie. I'm partying hard. I'm hooking up with all the cute boys from high school I never
Obviously.
hooked up with in high school because now I'm confident. And then, and this might segue into, you know, the other part of the business, not entertainment, but food and hospitality. I was in the car driving home from an audition, actually. I I was auditioning in Florida. I did have agents in Miami.
Good job.
And I was driving home from an audition, and on the radio, because this is still like 2003 or 4, there was a commercial advertising the new Hard Rock Hotel and Resort that was opening up in Hollywood, Florida, which listeners, that's like close to Fort Lauderdale. It's like north of Miami, we'll say, in like the southeast part of Florida. And they were opening up this like hotel and casino. And they were like, open call for the nightclubs, for bottle servers. And I'm like, whoa, now? And I was like passing the exit in probably 20 minutes. And I looked good. Got my hair and makeup were done. I was looking cute. And I was like, sweet, I'm going. And so I showed up on a whim to this open call for bottle servers. And I got the job. And that is what started me. I wound up living down there. I did not leave Florida for a few years.
Okay, we're gonna get into this. Don't worry, everybody. We're gonna get into specifics of that in the next section. Okay, so you don't leave Florida for a few years.
Yeah.
Then what eventually got you to Los Angeles?
What got me to Los Angeles? So I won't go into too much detail about it, but I started dating the bartender at one of the nightclubs.
Okay.
He was probably still is a complete addict.
What? You would be attracted to an addict?
Believe it?
I cannot.
And they warned me in treatment not to date outside of once you get out of treatment, because you'll probably start dating an addict because you feel like you can save them and fix them. And I was like,
what
not
do they
me.
know? Not you.
Not me.
You're the only one.
Absolutely.
Oh, girl.
I got this.
I got it.
And then I was like, let me work in this crazy industry around where I serve nothing but alcohol and everyone around me is doing drugs openly. And who's that guy?
He's so cute. As he's shooting up in front of you, you're like,
he's like waving 20 red flags.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he's on fire.
He's an angry drunk. How hot.
I can deal with that. I'll be the best girlfriend he's ever had.
You know it.
Oh God, girl.
And that is exactly what happened. We dated, and then his addiction and anger issues were so out of hand for me that he got an opportunity to take like a kind of like an office-y sort of like job, but a good one, from a friend of his who he went to college with, who lived in New Hampshire. And I was like, let's do that. Let's get these nightclubs.
Because the problem is the nightclub.
The problem is the nightclub.
It's the job.
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't.
No,
it was,
or him.
No,
it's the job.
It was.
I get it.
It's the place, not the person.
But you just have to move.
Yeah, we're gonna move, and everything's gonna be better.
Obviously,
we go to New Hampshire. Sorry to hate on New Hampshire for anyone who likes New Hampshire, but I was miserable.
Well, it's small. I mean, you can't. There's not a big life opportunity there. No offense.
It was in May.
Yeah,
I hated it.
It's beautiful.
I hated it.
Beautiful.
It was pretty.
Yeah.
It was pretty. Well, you're going to be shocked to hear that his addiction did not get better.
Amie.
The drinking actually got worse.
But you moved.
He got a different job. I know.
It didn't solve it?
So we did the next logical thing.
We moved
to Hawaii.
Obviously. Because the next move is going to, girl.
To a remote island.
Duh. Can't drink there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And then you'll fall in love more.
Yes.
Yeah, the ocean's right there.
We did. We fell in love more. We actually got engaged. Yeah, I have an ex-husband.
I did not know. Well, so you super solved him.
Super solved him.
He's doing great now.
He proposed. I pretty much had a panic attack when he proposed, because I was like, right away, I was like, no.
Every part of your body knew it was an absolute no.
I like broke down in hysterics, and not the pretty way. I was like,
and he's like, so is this a yes? Or like, what are we doing right now? You're like, yes, I'll fix you. Because once we're married, it'll get better.
It'll get better. And after the reason we moved out there was because his dad lived out there. And so we had been visiting quite a bit, and it was always like this pipe dream. And I've always wanted to live in Hawaii. So the island was and remains to be like my favorite place ever to live. It was amazing. Things got a little bit better for him and there for us after we got engaged. And then it just like turned dark fast. So my next solution to save this poor innocent soul was for us to move again.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
That's the next logical thing you do, because all the other moves didn't work, but this one will.
Right. I was like, oh, I know what happened. We went too far west.
Duh.
We should go east to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And we got divorced within 7 months of living here.
What? LA didn't solve it? Amie.
I mean, this is the best place to be if you're an addict, right?
Oh,
all the famous people you can meet in AA. I was like, come on. No.
Didn't work. Okay.
Didn't work.
Okay. But was a part of you also like, we'll move to LA and then acting? Because were you auditioning in Hawaii too? Or
I was.
So you've been able to hit different markets.
Yeah.
So you have confirmation that you know what you're doing. Yeah. So you're like, it is time. But going to LA would make sense.
Yeah, I really was like, I could have stayed on Maui forever and been happy probably, even if we weren't, we got married out there. And even if that had ended in divorce on Maui still, I think I would have still been very happy, but I felt that creative lack, and I was like, yeah, it's great to do background on the Adam Sandler movies when they come through, but and I was auditioning. Lost was still out there, that TV series when I moved out there, but I had to fly myself to Oahu for an audition. This was still, we weren't doing self-tape still.
Ugh.
Yeah, but back then inter-island flights were like $29, and I was like, I'm out of here for the day, and it was. Again, it worked. It was good until it didn't work. It wasn't good. Mm-hmm. And we came to LA. It was my call. I'm like, I think that I need to give myself a chance to really do this before like bailing on the industry. The marriage is another story. I was like, this is over.
This is so on fire. This has been on fire, actually.
And I am so sorry for not listening to what the treatment team told me. They were right.
We learn when we learn, though.
Yes, that is right. And I wish him well, as the great Gwyneth Paltrow likes to say. But yeah, I did something I knew wouldn't work. I gave him an ultimatum. I was like, you get cleaned up and you go to treatment or I'm out. And I know that doesn't work because it didn't work on me.
But it actually worked for what you needed it to work for.
Yeah.
I mean, because what you were doing was giving yourself the ultimatum of like, he gets cleaner, this is over, which is, he showed you.
Yeah. He got worse. Like he rebelled. And I'm like, but I understand this behavior.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, why I stayed with him for as long as I did. Because I understood.
You get it.
I empathized. I'm like, no, I understand. You're not trying to hurt me. It's hurting
not about
yourself.
Me. You're hurting yourself.
But it got to the point where I was like, Amie,
now you're hurting me.
Yourself,
yeah.
And thank goodness I made that call because now, as you know, I'm remarried to like the best guy in the whole world.
The lovely Ithmar Enriquez. Go back and listen to his episode and you'll get to know him too. He is a delight.
Like a literal earth angel. I don't know. I do know what I did to get so lucky.
Yeah, you've done the work.
The fucking work.
You explained what you did.
Like, I deserve this. Hell yeah.
Yeah, you do.
That self-sabotaging old me was like, like trying to sneak its way back in and be like, you don't deserve such a good guy. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Yes, I do. You know what I've been through.
You wake up every day as a monster. Like, this is mine. Good job, you. Okay, so you're in LA, you're auditioning, and then we're going to get into our jobs in the next section. Listeners, we are done talking about the ED stuff. Some of it might trickle back in, but the intensity with which we were discussing it before is now finished on this episode. So feel free to join us. We'll give you a second to come back in. Yes, that's right. It's over. We're done talking about it. Okay, join us back. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so you're in LA now, and then acting stuff. So lightweight, I want to go back. So you got to take that to Fringe, which is an enormous accomplishment and expense and headache and wonderful experience. Did you do the full 28 days or however, I forget how long?
I did.
How many performances did you do? Did you track?
26. Yes.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. There were, I think, maybe 4 previews and like 21 or 22 performances, which for me, what's the difference?
I mean, it's all the same.
The show.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to go 50% hard. No. So you get it. What made you want Fringe as the touchstone? Was that the like goal when you wrote no, you just said you got to get the story out, but was that the goal when you were running it in LA? You were like, no, Fringe has to be where I go next.
When I ran it in LA, I opened it at the Second City Hollywood, RIP.
RIP hard.
Oh man. And,
isn't that where you guys met?
Yeah, it is.
That's where I met Ithmar too. Sad. It's sad that building's gone. Yeah.
That building brought
so much joy.
Oh my gosh.
It's
the greatest people in my life.
Totally
Ithmar included, but my friends.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
I miss that place so much. Not the parking. Not Hollywood Boulevard, that's for sure. But I just miss Second City.
Same.
And it was really wonderful. Josh Funk, the
creative director or artistic director.
Creative director at the time, would really, truly let you put up anything on the stage. And, you just pitch a show and be like, and it's like, all right, here's your time slot. And that's how I was able to, without paying anybody $1, Second City they kept the box office sales, which were low. I mean, they didn't charge too much. And that's how I was able to put it up. And I think I did 4 or 5 shows at Second City. And then when I saw the response to it, that's when I was like, wait a minute, is there something? Should I do more of this? Do people need that? People are responding. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, maybe I'll do Fringe.
Oh,
and
I love that.
Then the pandemic happened.
Well, that sucks.
So anyway, that raised a lot of, I aged quite a bit, but, so Fringe got canceled in 2020, 2021. They were only inviting,
UK locals.
Yeah, because the restrictions were still pretty tight. And 2022 was the first year that they were that it was back. Yeah. Yes. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. So I love Fleabag, the series Fleabag that Phoebe Waller-Bridge created, and she debuted her one-woman show Fleabag at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I was like, yeah, I want to be with her venue. And so I did. I applied to the Underbelly. I was like, I want Underbelly. That's where Fleabag debuted, and they accepted. I applied to a ton of venues, but that was my top choice.
I love that so much. For people who don't know, we won't get into the micro of Fringe, but that is venues. That's almost harder than getting butts in the seats.
It is
just finding where you can perform, because there's so many shows.
Oh my gosh, thousands of shows.
Literally thousands.
Thousands. And I was like, no, I want Underbelly. And so I got Underbelly, and I was so happy. And then I was like, wait, how much does it cost to do this? That's what I was going to ask you, girl.
It's tens of thousands of dollars.
I'm still in a lot of debt.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the whole fundraising thing, and and that's and then I put up more shows prior to going out there to run some new things in LA. And so it eventually became a goal. And then I went to Fringe, and then I was like, I want off Broadway. I want to take this off Broadway now. And so I took it off Broadway, and now I'm like, I want to take it to college campuses because they need this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is such a great idea.
Thank you.
Is that in the works?
I'm hoping. That's why I want to film it. I want to film the show so that, because I have pitched it to interested colleges where I actually have connections, and not my college, but other people. Like, I have friends who are professors and do smart things with their lives, and they've pitched it to their colleagues, and they are like so interested. But then when it comes to like the final, like, yes, it's a no, because there's so much fear surrounding it. They're like, well, eating disorders are so problematic on this campus right now. We don't want anything to trigger anybody. And so they're being very careful.
But couldn't they give the students the choice whether or not they want to see? I mean, you're very transparent about what the show is about.
Yeah, and I'm not going to like trample into people's frat and sorority parties.
Like, hey, stop eating disorders.
You're all addicts, you little fucks.
Get sober. Because we know how well that works. That's
everyone's
odd.
choice to see it. And I thought I'll do a talk back with maybe a licensed therapist.
Great idea.
And so, so it seems like the response has been, this is such a big problem on our campus, eating disorders, that we don't even want to touch it.
Which is such the wrong, in my opinion, no shade to those schools. I understand the legal trickiness therein, but like, that's the actual opposite of what they should be doing.
Yes.
Because it is it's a pandemic in a lot of ways.
It is. And let me tell you, I didn't have TikTok or anything like.
Oh, it's so much worse. Oh, girl, I'd be dead.
I would be too.
I mean that, hand to God, because I would have gotten all that. Sometimes I'll dip into I'll go to this is too honest. Sorry, everybody. I lied. We're talking a little bit about it, but sometimes I'll go to those accounts with those certain hashtags.
Yes.
Just to emotionally cut. And I'm like, oh, if I were 16, I would no longer be here.
It is. I made the mistake of accidentally finding some hashtags, thinking I won't even say the hashtag. I went on TikTok and I was like, I wanted to post about recovery in a positive way, so I was like, oh, I'll do these hashtags. And when I saw what was associated with those hashtags, I was like, horrified.
It makes you shake. I was
horrified.
Shaking. Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing disguised as recovery. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I have news for everybody on this campus. Your students are not going to get triggered or tricked into anything by me.
Nope.
A healthy woman who is a rare survivor of one of the most deadly mental illnesses that there is, who is thriving, not just surviving, but like thriving.
Yes.
And it's so hard to find a living example of that. If I had one, I would have probably recovered earlier and a little more smoothly, knowing that there
question.
was hope. That like
Yes.
I needed to see a living, breathing example,
Yes.
and not just been told like there's a life out there for you, Amie. Like, but if
Go get it.
yeah. Get better and it'll be yours. I'm like, no, show me someone who has fucking been through it and got out of it and not only survived, but like thrived.
Also, stop showing us in entertainment the women who are still so clearly, women and men who are still so clearly in the shit, starring in everything. That was the other problem with when this was true in my life. It was like all I had were examples of people succeeding who had it.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why would I give this up? That's the ticket.
Yeah, they're not being penalized for
Not
it.
at all. They're winning.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I know. And all of the drugs that are like openly on the market now to lose weight quite quickly, it really pisses me off.
Me
so
too.
I'm like, you guys think I have the power to single-handedly
take them all
trigger
down.
all of these young souls and folks on your campus?
They have a phone.
Exactly.
They're getting
it's available to them. And bless my friends too. They fought it with that same reasoning. They were like, it's out there. They're able to access anything. So anyway, I'd like to film Lightweight so I can make a proper pitch packet to show them this is what the show is. And now you can actually see what it is not. And if you're still afraid to touch it,
Understood.
fine. But that's what I'd really like to do with it.
Amazing. So you're going to film it. We'll put we're going to give all your info and everything at the end so that people can support you in that way. And we'll give your websites and all of that to also any of our listeners who are attached to universities who are curious about bringing this show to campus or want more information. Are you comfortable giving an email right now that they could send an email to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Email info@lightweightshow.com. So it's LIGHTWEIGHTSHOW.
Nailed it. One take. We did not have to go back. Hell yeah.
Oh, gosh.
One take, Amie. There she is.
Amazing.
Okay. Okay, folks. We truly are done with the Edie conversation. Or some of it might come. I'm just going to, you know what I'm going to do at the top of the episode? I'm just going to let people, you're going to be a two-parter. We're going to let people know what's going on. So folks, we're going to wrap up the first part of this. The specifics of Edie stuff is probably done, but just listen with caution. And listen for recovery. Here we go. Thank you folks so much for listening. That's going to do it for us here at Service from Hell. This is the end of part 1 with Amie Enriquez, and she's an actress and just generally amazing and a writer and all of those wonderful things. Producer too. She produced her own show. She's all of those things. And this is the end of part 1. For more information and for some resources, obviously you all have Google, but eatingdisorderhope.com. Eatingdisorderhope.com is a great website. We are not affiliated with them. We do not get any funding from them. We don't know a lot about them other than that has been recommended to us for people to go to as a resource for more information if this is something that you yourself are struggling with. If this is a pain point, take a gander there. You might get some information that is helpful. Amie has a ton of statistics and information, and she's brilliant and shares all of that. And obviously you just heard that because this is the end of part 1. Next week, we don't get into it as specifically, but there is some more information that does come up. So eatingdisorderhope.com gives you more resources. And thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We will see you next week for part 2 with Amie Enriquez.